Okay, now let's move on to how we can use this technology as students or as teachers as well. There's ways of using this technology that's just product oriented, where you use it, you ask it to do something for you, and then you take that thing and hand it in as your own. That's the pure product oriented case. But there's also ways of using it to supplement your own learning process. So there's process-oriented uses as well. The technology is capable of both things, and there's sort of different ways along this spectrum of using it. It goes from, just write my hand in for me to help me refine my arguments by playing the devil's advocate, which is a purely sort of process-oriented use. I think the affordance of this technology lies heavily in this corner of the spectrum. I think if you've never seen ChatGPT before, you open it up for the first time, which one of these two use modes is it inviting you to use it as? I think it's heavily leaning towards product-oriented. And that puts a lot of onus on educators to steer students towards the process-oriented side of the spectrum. Make them aware that make students aware that there are two ways of using this technology. One leads to worse learning outcomes, one leads to better learning outcomes, and then giving them tips, tricks, and encouragement to use it in a process-oriented way. I don't think we can expect students to just autonomously use it in that fashion. I think it's our jobs as educators to nudge them towards that kind of use.
My experience from Greenland, the students at the university in Greenland, they were, and at the high school in Greenland, the students, they were reluctant and they were uncomfortable because they felt that this is too risky. If I start using AI, they will see me as a cheater.
Yeah.
I can't help falling into that category of a criminal almost if I use AI in the educational system.
Yeah.
And that's kind of healthy in some way, but also maybe makes it. We should support them in that and help them on instead of saying this is prohibited or dangerous or whatever.
I think it's counterproductive to go that route because we're going to use it and it's going to be everywhere. It's already being implemented directly into your text editing software. We can't tell them not to use it. That's a losing battle.
So why is it not considered cheating to ask ChatGPT to write my hand in for me?
I think partly because we don't have the tools to detect it. I think in a lot of ways, or in a lot of places, it is considered cheating to hand in a piece of AI-generated text without citing it as such. That is considered cheating in at least a lot of institutions.
Is it possible to use AI in your opinion without it being cheating?
Oh, totally. I hope so. I use AI all the time. So I hope it is. You need to be able to say that the content that you've created with AI is your own. You need to be able to vouch for every single piece of information in there. And you need to double check that everything in there is correct. Like if I use AI to say, I have a bunch of ideas for a paper, so I write those down in the form of keywords. And then I ask ChatGPT to, take these keywords and try to write them into the first draft for a theory section or something. I don't think that's cheating. Not if I take ownership over the final product, make it my own, make modifications, twist. I've just taken that step of the process where it's trying to come up with the words that fit in this specific context. And I've sort of outsourced that to generative AI, opening up more cognitive effort that I can use elsewhere. I think that's a fair use case.
And what wouldn't be a fair use?
The unfair use case would be, you take the sort of the formulation of this week's assignment written by a teacher, you plug that directly into ChatGPT, ask it to write a paper that's gonna make me pass, and you turn that in as if it was your own without acknowledging anywhere that it was written by AI. That is an unfair use case. But it is a spectrum, and it's blurry where the line goes. And I don't have the silver bullet to say this is the demarcation line. If you cross that, then you're cheating.
So what can universities do or university teachers do to prevent?
Well, they can formulate very clear policies, which I think most of them aren't doing because they're unclear about it still. But yeah, make sure that there's no confusion about what is cheating and what is not. Make sure that you tell them if you want them to cite OpenAI as a source. That's another discussion. I'm not sure that's a good idea, but just be transparent about what you want in terms of AI and have it written in the individual course descriptions, have it written on the website. You can't just post an announcement on on DTU's website and expect that now this is official policy and everyone's going to know about it. You need to be more proactive in sort of disseminating what the policies are.
And how is AI training the students' ability to reason?
That's a good question.
As opposed to following intuitively a seemingly correct answer.
That's a good question, and I don't know what the answer is as of yet. I think we might hopefully get more research like the one here, looking at critical thinking skills more specifically. But I think there's a good reason that there's reason to believe that it could atrophy those skills over time. If you take the content creation step where you, instead of writing what you want the AI to write for you or refine, if you ask the AI to come up with the content itself, then you miss the training that will eventually lead you to good academic critical thinking. So I think that it's a skill that needs to be sort of reinforced regularly. It's not like learning to bike. You need to train that muscle. And I think AI might be bad if you don't use it in a way where you're aware of that.
So at the moment, is it reasonable to say that perhaps the introduction or the allowance of AI within this spectrum is a little premature because there's a big gray area that we can't control? Or how would you define that?
I think yeah, but you also need to be pragmatic about it. Like we know there are ways in which this can be bad for learning. We also know that it's everywhere and that it's the easiest tool in the world to use, and it's being incorporated in all these other softwares. Like, it's impossible to avoid AI nowadays. And then we're expecting the students to just not use it. Like, you need to have a more elaborate strategy to push them towards the behavior that you want than just saying, no, you can't do that. It's not going to work. Okay. So when I think about the learning potentials of this, I usually think about them in three categories. There's like knowledge acquisition, just pure, how do I get knowledge into my brain, feedback, and then production, which is the most controversial. In terms of knowledge acquisition, I think good ways of using it are differentiated explanations. Explain this to me like I'm 5 years old, or explain this to me like I'm a PhD student. Sort of having content presented to you where you are or in some other ways, I think is a great way of using it. I've talked to several students who use it to test their knowledge, that use it to recreate exam sets that they can rehearse on before an exam. I think it's a brilliant use case. Prompted to be a Socratic questioner, so that it asks you follow-up questions or asks you to actively think about what your own opinion is, rather than just giving it or it giving you theirs. I think that's a good use case. Personalized tutoring, having it tailored to where you are academically, having an always on-demand tutor that doesn't get sleepy, doesn't get impatient with you, I think can be very beneficial. Having it produce analogies and metaphors. At least I learn a lot from analogies, having it relate to something that I know about, instead of just writing out the formulas as they are, related to something I know about and I'll remember it better. And AI is very good at that. Why technology glossaries? Like, if you're studying for something that's very terminology heavy, having AI produce a glossary for you with examples, I feel like that's a very good use case. For feedback, you can have it give you feedback on your content. Is my content correct? Is my content relevant to the description or the formulation for this assignment? How's my language and grammar? I run everything through ChatGPT, or I use Gemini at the moment, and have it check my grammar. Clarity. If you've been dug in on a topic for a long time, you can sometimes get very obtuse in your wording because you know the subject so well, so it becomes difficult to relay it in a way that others can understand. Getting feedback on my argumentation. Does 2 + 2 actually equal 4 here? AI is very good at spotting inconsistencies and logical flaws. How's my structure? Am I applying these formulas as they should be? And does my code work? Are there unexpected bugs I'll run into? It's also very good for that. And then production, which is, again, more controversial. But sometimes it can be nice to have help with first drafts. Like if you're staring on a blank piece of paper and you can't get started, have it produce a first draft for an introduction. And then you can spend your cognitive effort on editing and making sure, like, I sometimes find it easier to know what I think about something by thinking that I disagree with something. So have AI write something, and then if I disagree with it, I'll write my own take on it. That can sometimes help me to figure out what I actually think about something. Use it for brainstorming. That's a clear-cut case. Like, help me brainstorm ideas for this topic. Write the section outlines for this topic, what's relevant for this type of paper. Help me refine my research questions, or rewrite this for some other audience than the one it was originally written for. Basically, when you can have AI help you in production to save you time that you could spend better elsewhere. Have AI help you with the menial, boring tasks so that you can spend your cognitive effort on the stuff that matters. That's why I feel like it can be a good addition to a workflow.
And what's the guarantee they will spend their time?
Of course, that is up to the students. Like
right now it seems the convenient offer, but
Yeah.
in terms of, especially in an academic context, to train your cognitive ability
Yeah.
to reason, to come up with an argument, to struggle with the counter argument yourself.
Yeah,
That's what we're training at universities.
Yeah.
So if we could circumnavigate the fact that there's a convenience aspect and it seems to be in the foreground.
Yeah, but like if the time that you save is not spent on something else that's productive, but spent on Netflix instead, then this is not a good thing.
Right.
Of course. So it's.
And what's the scientific voice or evidence that they in fact do go and spend their time on
I
something
don't think there's any on
else? Are
that.
students more productive in?
I think definitely
things?
students are more productive, but
Yes.
whether they
It's-
learn, that's a no.
And I think
The
that's
jury's
very
still out on
central,
that.
right?
The perfect solution for all of this is just to switch from written exams to oral exams. Take that up with DTU's management. Yeah, because it's a very expensive format.
It is exactly.
So what do we do if we suspect something as teachers?
If you suspect something as teachers, I mean, it's up to you on what relationship you want to have with your students, of course, and what kind of culture you want to foster. But if you see a student where you're concerned that they're again and again turning in stuff that they would not have written by themselves, have a talk with them and ask, is there any way I can sort of help you be more proactive in this class rather than relying on AI? But I don't have any concrete advice to how you should behave as an educator, because it's difficult, and it's very easy to foster a culture of mistrust. When you frame it as a cheating tool, they will feel like cheaters.
But how and why does it deviate from plagiarism?
So I think if you use it in the way where you just hand in something purely written by AI, that is plagiarism. I mean, the definition of the term plagiarism is you're plagiarizing someone else's work, but is ChatGPT a someone? I'm not sure, but That I think most people would characterize that as plagiarism. But if there's a significant portion of your own work in there, if you have orchestrated what the outputs of the LLM have sort of made it your own, I don't think that qualifies as plagiarism. But I'm not an authority on this. It could be.
Maybe it's back to the intention from the student.
Yeah.
The intention might be to just to try to use it as a feedback or as something to rehearse on.
Yeah.
And that would be okay for me at least, and I can't see that as plagiarism. It's like we're in a spot where we can go two ways. We can use AI to take our education for us, kind of. So we don't have to take that much education. Or we could go the other way and say, well, I want to learn. I have 4 or 5 years to learn a lot of stuff, and I will jump in and get hooked on the learning processes.
Yeah.
And focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the question is, how do we as teachers nurture an inner moral compass for the students?
Exactly.
Because this is inviting to the opposite, in essence, right? Because it's so available and convenient.
Yeah.
So the inner moral compass gets shattered.
It needs to be something that is actively talked about.
Yes.
I insist that it's also possible to use it in a very constructive way.
Yes.
And I think we have to sort of think that way about it, because again, it's not going away. It's here. And if we want to remain relevant as a sort of an educational offer in society, we have to embrace it somehow.
But I think the point is here, as far as I hear what you're saying, is these processes needs to be facilitated by the teachers and the supervisors.
Yes.
Because putting the responsibility solemnly or solely on the students, it's too much to ask, because it's too tempting to go too far.
This makes large classes even more risky, or kind of large education. The further you get from your student, you don't know their names and so on, the more difficult it is to train their moral compass.
Finally, it's like similar to how we have learning potentials, there's also things to be careful about. I think in terms of using it for knowledge acquisition, it's very important to not blindly trust the outputs, because there are inaccuracies. There are what we call hallucinations.
What do you mean by this?
Hallucinations is what we call it when an AI makes up information. If you ask, especially like earlier versions, it's getting better and better, but if you ask the original ChatGPT, name 5 books written by Alexander Snottenheimer, it would give you a list of 5 books that sounds like they were like they could be book titles, but there's no person called Alexander Snottenheimer. So those books don't exist. Those are hallucinations. Basically, AI is trained to be helpful. It's trained to give you what you want from it. And it's very bad at saying, I don't know. It doesn't do that all that well. Also, be aware of bias. Be aware that you're not getting an objective answer. This is not, it's not like Google is objective as well, but there at least you're presented with an array of different views. Unless you specifically prompt these models to give you opposing opinions on the topic, it's going to give you a one-sided opinion on something. It's just something to be aware of. And it's not a substitute for learning. You can't have ChatGPT be your only source of knowledge. You also need to buy your textbook. You need to cross-reference with other sources, and just be aware that it's not an oracle. It's the way it answers you, it's not comprehensive, and it's not necessarily 100% true. In terms of feedback, I would say never let this be your sole source of feedback, because again, it's biased. It's stochastically generated feedback. It might give you one piece of feedback in one moment, another in a different moment. Don't trust the feedback too blindly. Also, AI is not there with you in the classroom. It hasn't followed you throughout the years. It doesn't know your learning journey, and it cannot give you feedback on your learning process, on your learning progress. It can't take into account where you are and where you've been. So it's a very limited kind of feedback that it can give you. So also always elicit feedback from your study mates, your teachers, if possible, your TAs, your family. Yeah, it's important. Don't let this be your only feedback. In terms of production, learning may not occur if you use this extensively. I think that's uncontroversial to say at this point. If you only use ChatGPT, you're going to learn less than if you only rely on textbooks. So don't overuse it. Use it in moderation. Use it when it makes sense. Quality control is always necessary. Don't ever just take an output from ChatGPT and pass it off as your own without checking the references, checking what it's saying, checking that it's something that you can stand by. So yeah, you should always be able to vouch for the output. It's yours. Even though it's generated by a machine, you're responsible for whatever's there if you pass it on.
Yeah, it's pretty much about the culture of learning. How do we engage in the culture of learning, or what kind of culture do we make, and what kind of culture of learning do we invite our students into? The nature of knowledge is to be shared and to develop among people. And then you have the educational system trying to make your knowledge yours to sell at an exam to get your marks and your exam paper, and then you can change that for a job, or you can. So there are opposite intentions in the educational system, and ChatGPT can take you both ways, kind of. It can provide you an excellent education. You can have great marks and you can sell it for a job, or it could go the other way. You can interact with AI and learn a lot, and share your learning with other humans.
In the best case scenario, this technology will be the great equalizer. It'll take the students that don't have resources, they can't buy personalized tutors, they don't have an uncle that's special, that's knowledgeable in this field, and they can have a world-class sort of tutoring experience at hand that might bring them up towards the more privileged students. I think there's also a chance that what we're seeing is sort of we're taking the smartest students and taking them making them even more productive and leaving the others in the dust. The low resource students who are already struggling are sort of delegating the cognitive struggle that would make them smarter or better off to ChatGPT, while the high resource students are more knowledgeable about the impacts of this technology and they're using it more beneficially. I don't know which of these. I think there are studies that point in either directions. I hope it's going to be an equalizer, but I'm not.
Sure. Who are the students who end up cheating?
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to believe that most students are cognizant of their learning journey, and they want to use it in a way that makes them smarter, and they'll take that responsibility on themselves. And there will be a portion that don't, but.
Or there are phases in your study life where you will and where you won't, for whatever reasons in your life.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And there might be courses that you need to get through, but you don't care about them. You might use it more there.
So you prioritize your effort.
Yeah.
Now we talked a lot about the students' use of this, but what about our use as supervisors and teachers? Because we could also use it to check the students' work and help us give feedback and stuff like that.
Yes.
So what about that?
Oh,
if you have any thoughts about that?
So be very wary of using it in a way that impacts the students. So don't ever use it to grade a paper, for instance. Don't have it say this is a 7, this is a 10. Or also, I think that would go against the EU AI Act that's coming up very shortly. I think the one thing I would say is don't use it to grade papers.